Alright, Schlockmeister fans, kind of a horror classic here. It's time to do Toolbox Murders. Let's check it out. Our movie starts with a flashback with a girl being killed from a car accident. Fast forward to current time, we have a guy in a toolbox.
What the hell's going on?
The woman recognizes him and freaks out when he pulls out a drill on her. She thought he was there to fix something in the apartment. Meanwhile, on the other side of the apartment complex, meet victim number 2. And she becomes the victim of a hammer. Another woman hears a commotion and comes into the apartment and becomes victim number 3 in the process. Meanwhile, a killer looks out the window and sees a girl on a phone. And below that girl, in another apartment, there's another girl who's putting on a show for the neighborhood, apparently. Cameron Mitchell is the owner of the building, and he's disturbed by it all.
Place of employment, references. And my God, what's happened here? It just shouldn't have happened to any of them.
The next night, we have a woman taking a bath. And our killer strikes here too. Gets her with a nail gun after chasing her around the apartment for a little bit. Meanwhile, remember that girl he saw on the phone who lived above the apartment of the chick in the bathtub? Well, he's going to kidnap her. The kidnapped girl is Lori, and this is her mom. Lori's brother Joey being
50 feet
questioned.
From the door. They're good-looking girls, and you're telling me you only recognize one of them.
Hey, what are you getting on my case for? Maybe I wasn't paying too much attention to the news.
Will Marshall from Land of the Lost.
Everything they've seen, huh?
That's not funny, Miller.
He's the nephew of
What are you
Cameron Mitchell.
I live in the next building. What are you?
Well, Joey's going to help Wesley clean up some of the apartments. Get all the blood out of there and everything. And if you look closely, as for Lori, she's bound, tied to a bed. And there is her kidnapper and killer.
You take that woman. Ah, poor, sick woman. Miss Andrews. She's drunk. Filthy. Dirty. So dirty. It's her. And she did the terrible things to her own body. I mean, unnatural things. Unnatural.
He thinks she's his daughter. She's going to play along.
Daddy, my wrist hurt. Oh, well, yes, I know.
No, dying's easy. It's over in a second. This hurts worse.
Kind of flirt. I mean, girls today, they all seem to get around.
As a matter of fact, she's rather immature for her age. Last few years, she's gotten crushes on boys a few years older than she.
Meanwhile, he's having a grand old time with his new daughter.
The way you look at it, the murderer's a guy.
The murderer's a guy who knows what he's doing.
Later on, Joey finds that toolbox. And inside, he's going to find the drill. Busted.
Each of those women. And he's got my sister.
Hey, come on. You watched him.
Well, he gets defensive of his uncle.
Caused a lot of trouble for my uncle. Joey.
That's gasoline. And after teasing him with matches, he's gonna follow through. He's just as crazy as his uncle. I don't think Kent knew that the girl was in there.
Uncle, that's what you've done. Kent, you've always helped me, and you always will. You're sick. You're in state.
Apparently,
All those times.
he had an affair with Kathy,
Every time we could get away.
his cousin.
Every hour we could find alone. We'd make love. We made love. Those are good executions.
So both of them are clearly nuts.
No, you're going to die. I'm going to kill you. You killed Pryor.
Leads to a confrontation in the kitchen. Nephew stabs again, and Uncle goes down. So Kent goes to untie Lori, but we know he's nuts too. And he apparently was having some incestuous affair with his cousin. And he's going to do the same with Lori too.
Understand you. I mean, you can't remain a little girl for the rest of your life. I'm sure you wouldn't even understand.
So he thinks she's Kathy too. He now thinks they're married, a couple. Now, there is a pair of scissors to her left. And although we don't see what happens next, we do see the bloody aftermath. And a brief prologue about how she survived and now lives happily ever after with her husband and child. All right, let's talk about Toolbox Murders. This is a movie that I had, I believe I first acquired this back in the March of 1987. I taped it on a beta tape with the movies Maniac and Jennifer. And I rented them from a video store and copied them. And I did watch this one at the time because I was familiar with it because I'd seen the ad for Toolbox Murders at the end of, on the trailer for it on another tape, actually. It was the Kingdom of the Spiders tape, actually, that I saw. But anyway, Toolbox Murders, it's allegedly a true story. Took place in 1967, apparently. But we have a guy who has some daughter issues. His daughter was killed in a car accident, I guess. We see a little bit of that at the very beginning. And he's so distraught by that, he kills people. He goes into this apartment complex. It's played by Cameron Mitchell. We don't know it's Cameron Mitchell right off the bat, but we find out later on. He carries this toolbox, he puts on a ski mask, he goes in and kills a woman with a drill. Kills her, pretty gory too. The next night he goes back and kills two more women, including, he kills two women the first night after the first one. So he kills 3 women in total the first night. And then the next night he goes back and kills this other woman who was played by a penthouse pet and a future porn star, actually. Killed her with a nail gun. And then he kidnapped this girl who was supposed to be, 14, 15, 16, I don't know. Lived upstairs from this woman. And then the rest of the movie is basically him holding her captive. And he's got, like I said, daughter issues. He pretends that it's his daughter, Kathy, the deceased daughter, and he's lost his mind, apparently. Thinks it is. Brings her food and stuff and says, "You're pure. Everybody that I killed was evil and bad, and you're pure, blah, blah, blah." Well, the girl's brother, Joey, is also looking for his sister. The cops aren't helping a whole hell of a lot. They kind of think Joey may have had something to do with it. So he scopes around the building. He finds the toolbox owned by the owner, Cameron Mitchell. And then he's discovered by Cameron Mitchell's nephew, played by Wesley Yore. You might remember him from Land of the Lost. He comes in and he says, "Look what your uncle did. He did this. He's probably got my sister, blah, blah, blah." And Wesley defends his uncle and douses him with gasoline. And then he lights him on fire and kills him. Turns out he's just as nuts as his uncle did. Well, he goes in by his uncle's place and he realizes that the daughter has been kidnapped there, or the sister has been kidnapped. So he then implies that his uncle and the uncle's daughter, Kathy, had a incestuous relationship. And then the two of them get into a scuffle, and Wesley ends up killing his uncle in the kitchen. Then he goes back to untie Lori, the girl, and Lori's very grateful. Oh, thank you, thank you, thank you. But then Wesley goes nuts too. Like we already know, he killed the girl's sister. And then he basically molests her and rapes her. And the next morning or next evening, I don't know what it is, but he's laying in bed with her and he's pretending like they're a married couple, this and that. And then we look over and the girl finds a pair of scissors. We don't see it happen, but she obviously grabbed the scissors, then stabbed Wesley to death. And she wanders outside free, and then we see a prologue that this happened in 1967, and she now lives. She was in an insane asylum for 3 years, but now she lives with her husband and child somewhere. That's Toolbox Murders. So anyway, I always kind of dug this movie. It's kind of grown on me over the years. When I first saw it, I loved the first 20 minutes of it because they were gory. There was some nice nudity in it. But the rest of the movie just kind of lagged a little bit. But I have learned to appreciate that lag. It's got a whole very creepy vibe. It kind of had that stale 70s appeal to it, and I kind of like that. It's just kind of dark and grimy, and it was pretty cool. So anyway, I'm actually Facebook friends with Wesley Yarto, and he does speak fondly of this film. I think he's Facebook friends with the girl, actually, who he molested, or the kidnapping victim in this movie, Lori. So, and they both comment about this stuff from time to time. But yeah, it's a cool flick. I like it. So anyway, I've had this DVD for a long, long time from Blue Underground. It's released on Blu-ray as well. So both are available. It's kind of a classic horror movie from that era, and I'm sure a lot of you have seen it. So tell me what you think about it. It's the Toolbox Murders. Leave some comments. Watch it. Bye.